Chivalrous Draconics. This is internet personality Vangelus, and I'm here to take a look at the most modern rendition of a pair of Transformers who combine to form a dragon, released back in 2017. It's Dragonstorm, a leader class from Transformers The Last Knight's Premiere Edition, which was a line that came out in such close proximity to the launch of Studio Series, many of its toys were considered to just be Studio Series quality, like good old Dragonstorm here. Once you've carefully removed them from their packaging and successfully rolled a few successful luck checks, especially in 2024, Dragonstorm's primary mode is this three-headed dragon. With a fully connected head attached to the end of each neck, this is a voluminous quadruped with a large wingspan and some intense wiry threaded surface sculpting all over the top of the figure. Unfortunately, a lot of the dragon mode sculpt is a Frankenstein patchwork of the aforementioned threaded metallic surface and knight parts. No real transitions, just hard cuts between techno-organic mythology and the physical reality of what this friend turns into. Even the paintwork jumps between a lovely shiny silver and a whole lot of dull beige over gray and black plastic. At least the trio of dragon heads have got that sinewy steel sculpt work going on, though a lot of it is lost between the combination of lack of paint and some gloopy orange deco that has the potential of wearing itself down, depending on your luck of the draw in chemical mixtures. Dragonstorm has two major poses that he can assume, and the toy does a decent job of supporting both. Walking on all fours is hypothetically possible, though any pose beyond that very specific one will lead to the front half nearly dragging on the ground due to the shorter front-facing appendages. Going bipedal is definitely intense and doable, but also hides all the best paintwork and sculpt work from most viewing angles. So the dragon does have some articulation to it, believe it or not, even though it looks kind of staticky, but he's got some fairly solid hip and ankle joints. The hip joints are actually ratcheted in and out because they become robot legs for one of the guys. And then he's got the slightest of ankle tilts on the back. So you got some nice range. You can even unclip the transformation joint for the knee if you want to accomplish things with that. The tail's got a pair of hinges, so it can only really go up and down, but you can curve it enough to make it somewhat expressive. He's got ball socket joints on the front of the dragon, which mine are a tiny bit loose, and then you have the click-in elbows and then hinges at the front claws to have him stand or slash people if you really want to do that. He also has three fairly organic feeling hinges on each wing, which was a little ahead of the curve for Transformer-based wing articulation tech for 2017. But with toys such as Dragon Megatron now, they've since improved that. But this was still not bad for the time. And approximately, hypothetically, 4 hinges on each neck with a working jaw to boot for each head. There are also these 5mm holes to store the 3 included weapons. The swords do a decent job of hiding away in obvious sight, while the staff confidently does the absolute opposite, somehow appearing to float in aggressive non-integration over top of Dragonstorm's spine. The courage, the bravado, inspiring to say the least. Getting Dragonstorm apart for transformation is a bit tricky, mostly because the chest lacks any comfortable way to grip it in order to split open the concrete solid series of interlocking tabs that keep it shut. After that, let Storm Rain's central section fall out and you can start closing things back up for Dragonicus. The wing-bearing knight has a lot of beast former DNA within its conversion scheme, inhaling Dragonstorm's frontal limbs into its burly chest, while Dragonstorm's rear limbs and hips reshape and reform into a humanoid legs and slim, unified groin. There's a lot of unfortunate jank here, from the crotch's unconfident locking tech to the imprecise way the Dragonstorm's knees straighten into Dragonicus's knees. On the bright side, everything else is very straightforward, and isn't it a relief how little dragon heads have to do with this whole process? Not that you have anything to worry about if you didn't fail your luck checks earlier in this video. Storm Rain does a whole bunch of asymmetrical acrobatics to unfurl himself into a limbless dragon worm thing, into a knightly dude robot. Everything's unique, everything's interesting, and it gets me excited for a final step that uses the Dragonstorm's chest to seal and lock up the whole shebang. Unfortunately, that final step never happens, as Dragonstorm's chest just folds up on a detented hinge and extremely lightly grips the part of the multi-axis rotational array within Storm Rain's torso. It doesn't really prevent it from moving, nor does it have a big tactile moment of actually locking stuff together. Dragonicus is the beefcake of the Dragonstorm pair, and I love his barrel-chested big man proportions. A court of knights needs this one guy who demonstrably could throw an entire horse, and Dragonstorm fulfills that aesthetic with aplomb. He even makes use of the janky split crotch to get across the look of the forked groinal armor plate, similar to movie 4 and 5's Optimus Prime's own crotch cup. I'm really into how he folds the Dragonstorm wings up into a very cape-like shape rather than just giving in and being a dragon guy. After all, that's Steelbane's job. Dragonicus has the perfect kind of bucket-topped helmet design to cap off the look, with deep-set red eyes and a riveted scaled faceplate. Stormrain isn't skinny, but he's got an armored slender vibe that pairs well with Dragonicus's bulk. His sculpt implies a lot of layered plates, while his helmet is a T-visor delight that flows nicely with all the visible curved edges. It's such a shame that Dragonicus's chest does next to nothing to integrate, as it makes Stormrain look straight up unfinished from several angles. I'd have even been fine with something as simple as the piece rotating around to form a humped backpack. At least Stormrain's staff can be stored back there, though it looks a little less smooth than Dragonicus's twin swords, even with all the surrounding bulk. In general, these two are a fantastic visual pairing. It's just a shame that they share such a bland slurry of color layout. Unifying, yes, but inspiring, not really, other than intermittent spots of silver and metallic blue. Despite that, these two keep perpetual hooks in me regardless. Call me a sucker for the Ornstein and Smaug aesthetics vibe. Stormrain's got a basic suite of articulation, but a lot of it is hampered by the weird baggage. His ball-jointed neck can only really swivel to his right due to the lack of clearance on the left clavicle for his helmet. His ball-jointed shoulders work fine, even capable of T-posing, but the inert rotator array's inability to lock into place makes everything wobbly, even when you use the bicep swivels or the elbow hinges. Sorry pals, no wrists. Not even on Dragonicus either. Though, as you can see, he does still have his own elbows, biceps, and ball socket shoulders. Both of the Dragonstorm boys can T-pose, Primus saved the Robo royalty. Dragonicus does have a strictly superior ball-jointed neck with full swivel and even a tiny touch of emotive waggle. His hips have a smooth, solid forward motion along with a detented outer motion, likely due to this being Dragonstorm's load-bearing hips in alt mode. The crotch can come apart during all of this unless you take a moment to help holding it together, especially during the detents. There are also thigh swivels, a slight 90-degree upper knee hinge with an extremely minor lower knee hinge, and a big meaty ball socket ankle capable of some usable tiltability. However, Dragonicus has no waist joint, but Stormrain? Oh, he's got one, completely unfettered and free to swing his hips around to your heart's content. His universal hip swivels and thigh cuts all work decently, and his knee hinges can even pull off a deep bend. However, his thighs are tiny compared to his shins, which diminishes the overall effect. And ankles, Stormrain doesn't even have symmetrical heels, let alone usable articulation down there, though his heels work in tandem with the tiny feet to make Stormrain a bit of a butt and ass to keep stable on a flat surface. Would I, internet personality Vangelus, call leader class Dragonstorm a cool toy? Yes. Would I call it a good toy? Awkward avoidance as I hasten us to the next question. Would I get into a fight with someone like x/Twitter user @signinThatToyGuy over it? No, absolutely not. Leader class Dragonstorm is trying so hard to do well with the nigh impossible concept. Somewhere between 2 and 13 Knight Transformers can combine into him. His film, The Last Knight, is such a desperate quilt of half-finished and unrelated concepts to note that even the finished film doesn't actually know what a Dragonstorm is. And yet, he was chosen to be a marquee merch design despite being an aimless cloud of concept art that was put on screen with no rhyme or reason. This toy was made for almost literally nothing. That's why I'm so bummed out that after all of its hardships and quirks, all of its easy failures and astonishing successes, the 3 dragon heads commonly melt their own hinge connections, sometimes without even a hint of human contact. When this toy came out in 2017, it wasn't uncommon to hear of decapitated Dragonstorm heads rattling around in sealed copies of the toy. Thank heavens they ended up literally hanging off the forearms of the 2 robot modes. They even offer the option for an unofficial Dragon Blast attack if they haven't leaked plasticizer to melt their own hinge connections, which is itself a completely random and unpredictable happenstance. I unironically enjoy Leader Class Dragonstorm for taking on a frankly impossible task of making something out of the chaotic pile that was Dragonstorm's entire friggin' everything in the last night. And I wish that 7 years later somebody had produced 3 replacement robot mode arms to swap out the chemically unstable dragon heads that make it nearly impossible to even academically recommend this toy that I genuinely smile at when I put him through his paces. It's okay, Dragonstorm. Even if that toy guy hates you, you will always have a home with me. Your robots, plus dragons, plus knights, the peanut butter, marmalade, and brioche bread sandwich of toys, non-derogatory. Anyways, this has been Internet Personality Vangelus, portrayed by that toy guy as part of a Transformers YouTuber's identity theft special. Check out the playlist for more mix and match videos. We all made it in good fun. Yeah, good fun. Vangelus wrote a script to make me say nice things about Dragonstorm. He even wrote this part at the end to make it clear that these are his words, not mine. Even this part. Stop writing in my voice.
That's right, X/Twitter user, sign in That Toy Guy. Check out YouTube creator That Toy Guy's video in the playlist to see who performed in his video for the project. And be sure to visit Kian Carlisle. I sure did.
It's that time of year. You ain't gonna keep a good old soggy down now.